Everybody, these are the films that we loved of 1939. These are the best movies of 1939. Join us at Yesteryear and Today, and let's celebrate the films of 1939. Jesse James, drama and western. After railroad agents forcibly evict the James family from their family farm, Jesse and Frank turn to the banditry for revenge. Jesse James, Tyrone Power. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Notre Dame. Drama and romance and horror. In 15th century France, a gypsy girl is framed for murder by the infatuated Chief Justice, and only the deformed bell ringer of Notre Dame Cathedral can save her. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Andy Hardy gets spring fever. Comedy, family, and romance. Young Andy develops a crush on his drama teacher. Meanwhile, Judge Hardy has his own problems when he gets conned into forming a phony aluminum corporation. Andy Hardy gets spring fever, featuring Mickey Rooney. Another Thin Man, William Powell and Myrna Loy. Comedy, crime, and music. An explosive manufacturer suspects a young man is out to kill him. He calls in the new parents, Nick and Nora, to sort things out. Another Thin Man. At the Circus, featuring the Marx Brothers. The Marx Brothers try to help the owner of a circus recover some stolen funds before he finds himself out of a job. Comedy and musical. Marx Brothers at the Circus. Another comedic gem of a movie. Babes in Arms, featuring Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney. One of the best duos of the 30s. A group of vaudevillians struggling to compete with talkies hits the road hoping for a comeback. Frustrated to be left behind, all of the kids put on the show themselves to raise money. Babes in Arms. Beau Geste. Action, adventure, and drama. Three adopted English brothers join the French Foreign Legion in North Africa after one of them steals their adopted family's famous heirloom sapphire. Beau Geste, featuring Gary Cooper and Ray Milland. Buck Rogers, adventure, family, and sci-fi. A 20th century pilot named Buck Rogers and his young friend Buddy Wade awake from 500 years in suspended animation to find that the world has been taken over by the outlaw army of Killer Khan. Buck Rogers. Adventure, family, and sci-fi. Charlie Chan in Reno. Mary Whitman, an old friend of Charlie's in Reno for a divorce, finds herself accused of murdering the woman her husband planned to marry after the decree became final. Charlie Chan in Reno. Crime, musical, and mystery. Charlie Chan at Treasure Island. Charlie's investigation of a phony psychic during the 1939 World Exposition on San Francisco's Treasure Island leads him to expose a suicide as a murder. Charlie Chan at Treasure Island. Confession of a Nazi Spy, Drama and War. FBI agent Ed Renard investigates the pre-war espionage activities of the German-American Bund. Confessions of a Nazi Spy. Featuring Edward G. Robinson. Dark Victory, featuring Betty Davis. A young socialite is diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor and must decide whether or not she'll meet her final days with dignity. Drama and romance. Dark Victory. Daughters Courageous. Nan Masters, a single mother living with her 4 marriageable daughters, plans to marry Sam Sloan, businessman. Out of the blue, her first husband, Jim, returns after deserting the family for 20 years. Daughters courageous. Daytime wife. Comedy and romance. When a young wife discovers her husband of 2 years is involved with his beautiful secretary, she applies for a job as a secretary to a business rival. William Powell and Linda Darnell. Daytime wife. Destry rides again. Comedy and western. Deputy Sheriff Destry tames the town of Bottleneck, including saloon singer Frenchie. Marlena Dietrich and James Stewart. Destry rides again. Dodge City. Drama and western. A Texas cattle agent witnesses firsthand the brutal lawlessness of Dodge City and takes the job of sheriff to clean the town up. Dodge City featuring Errol Flynn. You don't mess with Errol Flynn. Drums Along the Mohawk featuring Claudette Colbert and Henry Fonda. Drama, romance, and war. Newlyweds Gil and Lana try to establish a farm in the Mohawk Valley, but are menaced by Indians and Tories as the Revolutionary War begins. Dust Be My Destiny. Crime drama. Embittered after serving time for a burglary he did not commit, Joe Bell is soon back in jail on a prison farm. His love for the foreman's daughter leads to a fight between them. Dust Be My Destiny. Each Dawn I Die. James Cagney and George Raft. The corrupt DA with political ambitions is angered by news stories implicating him in criminal activity and decides to frame the reporter, James Cagney, for manslaughter. Each Dawn I Die. Eternally Yours. Anita Halstead, swept off her feet by magician Arturo, finds the results less than magical. Eternally Yours. Loretta Young and David Niven. They also starred later in 1944, I believe, in The Bishop's Wife. 5 Came Back. Adventure, drama, and romance. A plane has engine trouble while flying over a jungle inhabited by cannibals. 5 Came Back. A forced landing grounds 10 modern travelers. Next up we have is First Love. An orphan boarding school graduate secretly attends a prestigious ball, where she falls for the boyfriend of her snobbish cousin. Comedy, musical, and romance. First Love. Laurel and Hardy in The Flying Deuces, comedy, family, and war. Ollie has fallen in love with the innkeeper's daughter in Paris. The only problem? She's very much in love with her husband. To forget her, he joins the Foreign Legion with Stan. Bad idea. Golden Boy. Awesome movie, Golden Boy. Despite his musical talent, Joe Bonaparte wants to be a boxer. Golden Boy, featuring a young William Holden, one of his best movies of all time. Golden Boy. Drama, romance, and sport. Goodbye, Mr. Chips. Drama and romance. An aged teacher and former headmaster of a boarding school recalls his career and his personal life over the decades. Goodbye, Mr. Chips. Featuring Greer Garson. Gunga Din. Awesome movie. Adventure, comedy, and war. Cary Grant, Victor McClellan, and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. In 19th century India, 3 British soldiers and a native water bearer must stop a secret mass revival of the murderous Thuggy cult before it can rampage across the land. The Ice Follies of 1939. An ice skater jeopardizes her marriage when she becomes a movie star. Drama, music, and romance, featuring Joan Crawford. So, if it has Joan Crawford, it's gotta be good. The Ice Follies of 1939. Clark Gable, Norma Shear, and Clarence Brown. Idiot's Delight. Comedy, drama, and music. A group of disparate travelers are caught and thrown together in a posh Alpine hotel when the borders are closed at the beginning of World War II. Idiot's Delight. In name only, after a wealthy man finds out his wife is a gold digger, he meets and falls for a widowed mother, and complications ensue. A beautiful, marvelous love story, drama and romance. In name only. Indianapolis Speedway. Action, drama, and romance. Joe is a 3-time Indy champion who still races to put young Eddie through college. Joe wants a better life for Eddie, and he explodes when he finds out that Eddie quit school for racing. Indianapolis Speedway. Invisible Stripes. An ex-con who wants to go straight has difficulties trying to reintegrate into society while on parole. Invisible Stripes. Jane Bryan and William Holden. Action, crime, and drama. It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful World. I messed up. Comedy, crime, and mystery. When a tycoon is accused of murder, the private eye is tracking him, finds himself roped in as an accessory and attempts to evade police. It's a Wonderful World. Juarez. Louis Napoleon III takes advantage of the American Civil War to circumvent the Monroe Doctrine and expand his power by helping empower Maximilian Habsburg to conquer. Biography, drama, and war. Juarez. Judge Hardy and son, Mickey Rooney. Judge Hardy, trying to find a relative of an aged couple to prevent them from losing their home, enlists the aid of his son, Andy. I love Andy Hardy. I love Mickey Rooney. King of the Underworld. Drop That Gun, Killer, featuring Humphrey Bogart. After the killing of her husband by friendly fire during a police raid, Dr. Carol Nelson tries to find gangster Joe Gurney to clear her name with the medical board. The Rules of the Game. A bourgeois life in France at the onset of World War II, as the rich and the poor servants meet up at a French chateau. Comedy and drama and romance. The Rules of the Game. Love Affair. A French playboy and an American former nightclub singer fall in love aboard a ship. Comedy, drama, and romance. Featuring Irene Dunne and Charles Boyer. Love Affair. Made for Each Other. Comedy, drama, and romance. While on a business trip, an ambitious young lawyer meets and immediately falls in love with a stranger. They wed the following day. Tragedy ensues. Made for Each Other. All-star cast. Midnight. A chorus girl stranded in Paris is set up by a millionaire to break up his wife's affair with another man, while being romantically pursued by a cab driver. Clyde Colbert and Don Amici. Midnight. $1 Million Legs, a comedy at Middleton College controlled by rich donor Melton. Only playing sports are allowed. But Freddie Fry, conniving student body president, has to get a letter in some sport to win back his girlfriend. $1 Million Legs. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, a true classic. Comedy drama. A naive youth leader is appointed to fill a vacancy in the U.S. Senate. His idealistic plans promptly collide with corruption at home and subterfuge from his hero in Washington. Comedy and drama. Never Say Die. A wealthy hypochondriac and an heiress are both experiencing romantic complications, prompting them to marry each other. Never Say Die. Comedy, musical, and romance. Martha Ray and Bob Hope. We love Bob Hope. Greta Garbo in Ninochka. A stern Soviet woman sent to Paris to supervise the sale of jewels seized from Russian nobles finds herself attracted to a man who represents everything she is supposed to detest: comedy and romance. Of Mice and Men, classic. Adventure drama. A mentally disabled giant and his level-headed guardian find work as a sadistic cowboy's ranch in Depression-era America. Of Mice and Men, adventure and drama. Off the record, two newspaper reporters, Thomas and Jane, inadvertently send a boy named Mickey to reform school after they write an expose of the illegal slot machine racket. Off the record, drama. Joe Blondell and Pat O'Brien. On Borrowed Time, Lionel Barrymore and Sir Cedric Hardwicke. Drama, family, and romance. A cantankerous old man takes in his beloved orphan grandson, whom he must protect at all costs, with the help of an agent of death and a magical apple tree. On Your Toes, musical and comedy. A young Hooper quits vaudeville to become a composer and hooks up with a Russian ballet troupe. On Your Toes, a true classic. Another classic is Only Angels Have Wings. Cary Grant and Jean Arthur. Adventure, drama, and romance. After a remote Southern American trading port, the manager of an air freight company is forced to risk his pilots' lives in order to win an important contract as a traveling American showgirl stops them. Only Angels Have Wings. Next up we have is Jamaica Inn with Charles Laughton. In Cornwall, 1819, a young woman discovers she's living near a gang of criminals who arrange shipwrecks for profit. Adventure and crime in Jamaica Inn. Next, one of the greatest movies of all time, Gone with the Wind. Clark Gable and Vivien Leigh, a sheltered and manipulative Southern belle, and a roguish profiteer face off in a turbulent romance as the society around them crumbles with the end of slavery and is rebuilt during the Civil War. They Made Me a Criminal, crime drama. A champion boxer on the lam, believed to have committed murder while drunk, takes refuge and finds redemption at a farm for delinquent youths. They Made Me a Criminal. They Made Me a Criminal, featuring John Garfield. The Woman, Norma Shear and Joan Crawford and Rosalind Russell. A study of the lives and romantic entanglements of various interconnected women. Comedy and drama. The Women. Next up we have is You Can't Get Away with Murder. Youthful tough Johnny Stone has fallen under the influence of petty crook Frank Wilson, who involves him in robbery and murder using his sister's boyfriend's stolen gun. Crime drama. You Can't Get Away with Murder, featuring Humphrey Bogart. Stanley and Livingston. Tasked by his editor, American reporter Henry M. Stanley travels to a dangerous and uncharted region of East Africa to find the missing Scottish pioneer missionary, Dr. David Livingstone. Spencer Tracy, Stanley and Livingston. Richard Green and Nancy Kelly. Swanee River, biography, drama, and musical. More fictional than factual. Songwriter from Pittsburgh falls in love with the South, marries a Southern gal, then is accused of sympathizing with the enemy. Swanee River. Private detective, action, adventure, and comedy. When they are forced to work together, rival detectives fall in love. Private detective, Jay Wyman and Dick Forum. This is action, adventure, and comedy. Raffles, adventure, comedy, and crime. Man about town and first-class cricketer A.J. Raffles keeps himself solvent with daring robberies. Raffles, featuring David Niven and Olivia de Havilland. Raffles. Do we like Raffles? The Return of Dr. X. A hotshot reporter and a young doctor team up to investigate a series of grisly murders and a mysterious sample of synthetic blood. The Return of Dr. X. Rosemary Lane, Humphrey Bogart, and Dennis Morgan. Some Like It Hot. Nicky Nelson is a fast-talking sideshow barker with a wax-alive concession on Atlantic City's boardwalk. Some Like It Hot. Bob Hope and Shirley Ross. Comedy, musical, and romance. Not the Tony Curtis version. Son of Frankenstein. Ugh. Basil Rathbone and Boris Karloff. Returning to their central castle long after the death of the monster, the son of Dr. Frankenstein meets a mad shepherd who is hiding the comatose creature. Great movie. Stagecoach. A group of people traveling on a stagecoach find their journey complicated by the threat of Geronimo and learn something about each other in the process. Adventure, drama, and western. Stagecoach. Great movie. Streets of New York. Jimmy, an idealistic and hardworking young man, has just arrived in New York City with dreams of making his fortune. Jackie Cooper, action, crime, and drama. The Streets of New York. Susanna of the Mounties. Shirley is the orphan survivor of an Indian attack in the Canadian West. A Mountie and his girlfriend take her in. Drama and western. Everybody suffers further Indian attacks. Woo! Indians. The Hardys ride high. Judge Hardy and family travel to Detroit to claim an inheritance, where they experience life as millionaires and learn the cost of riding high. Louis Stone, Mickey Rooney, Cecilia Parker, and Faye Holden. Another great comedy. Next up we have is The Human Monster featuring Bela Lugosi. Insurance agent physician collects on policies of men murdered by a disfigured resident of the Home for the Blind, where he acts as doctor on call. The Human Monster. Drama and horror. The Hound of the Baskervilles. Crime, horror, and mystery. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson investigate the legend of a supernatural hound, a beast that may be stalking a young heir on the fog-shrouded moonland, and makes up his estate. The Hound of the Baskervilles. The Little Princess featuring you-know-who, Shirley Temple. A little girl is left by her father in an exclusive seminary for girls, when her father fights in the Second Boer War. Later, when he is presumed dead, she is forced to become a servant. Shirley Temple gets dumped in every single movie. She's like an orphan in every single movie. The story of Alexander Graham Bell. The story of how Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. Biography, drama, and history. This is a great movie. Alexander Graham Bell. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Master Sleuth hunts his archenemy Professor Moriarty, who is planning the crime of the century. Featuring Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Cat and the Canary. Bob Hope and Paulette Goddard. Comedy, horror, and mystery. When an eccentric family meets in their uncle's remote, decaying mansion on the 10th anniversary of his death, for the reading of his will, murder and madness follow. The Cat and the Canary. The Phantom Creeps. Action, family, and horror. A military intelligence officer and a pretty reporter try to find a scientist whose inventions can destroy the world. The Phantom Creeps. Featuring again Bela Lugosi. The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex. A depiction of the love-hate relationship between Queen Elizabeth I and Robert Devereux, the Earl of Essex. Betty Davis and Errol Flynn. The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex. The Rains Came. In India, a married British aristocrat is reunited with an old flame, but she truly has her sights set on a handsome surgeon. adventure, drama, and romance. Featuring Myrna Loy, Tyrone Power, and George Brett. The Real Glory, action, history, and music. A small American contingent tries to train rural tribesmen to defend themselves against fanatical Muslim radicals in 1906 Philippines. The Real Glory. The Three Musketeers, action, adventure, and comedy. D'Artagnan sings and fronts for slapstick cowardly Ritz brothers posing as musketeers. This movie is a gem, lots of adventure and comedy and one-liners. The Underpup. A young city girl from a poor family is invited to spend the summer at a camp for girls from wealthy families. The Underpup. Robert Cummings, Nan Gray, and Gloria Jean in The Underpup. Next up we have is The Oklahoma Kid, action, history, and western. During the Oklahoma land rush, the lawlessness is exacerbated by the McCord gang's feud with the Kincaids, the McCords and the Kincaids, who are trying to bring law and justice to the region. The Oklahoma Kid. Next up we have is The Old Maid, Betty Davis and Miriam Hopkins. The arrival of an ex-lover on a young woman's wedding day sets in motion a chain of events which will alter her and her cousin's lives forever. The Old Maid. The Roaring Twenties, featuring James Cagney and Priscilla Lane. Three men attempt to make a living in Prohibitionist America after returning home from fighting together in World War I. The Roaring Twenties, featuring James Cagney. The Story of Vernon and Irene Castle, the story of the dancing team who taught the world the two-step. The Story of Vernon and Irene Castle, drama and musical. Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Next up we have another classic, another gem. Tower of London. In the 15th century, Richard Duke of Gloucester, aided by his club-footed executioner Mord, eliminates those ahead of him in succession to the throne, then occupied by his brother King Edward. Tower of London. Drama and history. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, featuring a very young Mickey Rooney. To avoid his abusive father, a rambunctious boy rafts the Mississippi River with a slave, encountering many wild characters. Adventure, drama, and family. Union Pacific. In 1862, Central Pacific and Union Pacific railroads compete westward across the wilderness towards California. CCB DeMille's Union Pacific. Next up we have is When Tomorrow Comes. A concert pianist unhappily married to a mentally ill woman falls in love with a waitress. Drama, music, and romance. When Tomorrow Comes. When tomorrow comes. When tomorrow... See, I can sing. The Wizard of Oz. Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz came out the same year. Probably the two best movies of 1939. Adventure, family, and fantasy. You all know. Judy, The Wizard, Yellow Brick Road. Awesome movie. Wuthering Heights. Drama and romance. Another classic. A servant in the house of Wuthering Heights tells a traveler the unfortunate tale of lovers Kathy and Heathcliff. Wuthering Heights. Merle Oberon and Sir Lawrence Olivier. And David Niven. Yes, my darling daughter. Having recently met at a literary tea, emancipated Anne Murray has invited Titus, referred to as Jay, to spend the weekend with her and her family. Comedy, musical, and romance mystery. You can't cheat an honest man. The owner of a debt-ridden circus contends with pursuant bill collectors and sheriffs and his beloved daughter's relationship with one of his performers and a stuffy but wealthy young man. You can't cheat an honest man. You can't get away with murder. Youthful tough Johnny Stone has fallen under the influence of petty crook Frank Wilson, who involves him in robbery and murder using his sister's boyfriend's stolen gun. You can't get away with murder. I think I've already covered this, but it's a great movie. I had to include it twice. Young Mr. Lincoln, a fictionalized account of the early life of the American president as a young lawyer facing his greatest court case. Biography, drama, and history. Young Mr. Lincoln. Henry Fonda and Bill Weaver. Those are the films that we loved of 1939. These are the best movies of 1939. If there are any films that I left out, please leave them in the comments, and then maybe I can do another video on those films that I possibly left out. I'm Tony. Thank you for watching and joining me here at Yesteryear. And today, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, leave them below. And I'll see you all in the next video.